Welcome to my review of Tokyo DisneySea at the Tokyo Disney Resort. In this review, I'll share my thoughts on this fantastic park, and this one is going to be a long one, so I decided to split this review into two parts. This is the first part, where I'll go in depth about the general qualities of DisneySea, and I'll share my thoughts about some of the park's lands. In the second video, I'll talk about the remaining lands, and I'll also share my thoughts on the park's main attractions. There is a ton of things worth mentioning, and there will be several spoilers, so if you want to fully experience the park on your own, I recommend to not watch the second half of this video as well as the second part. If you still want to hear a non-Disney person's opinion on a Disney park, you should watch the entire review. But with that out of the way, let's dive into the review. The Tokyo Disney Resort is located on the outskirts of Tokyo, but it's very easy to reach by train. The resort opened in 1983 with Tokyo Disneyland, which has been one of the most visited theme parks in the world for a while now. In 2001, Tokyo DisneySea opened as the resort's secondary park. The main park focuses on the classic Disney experience, with rides and areas themed around famous Disney characters. However, DisneySea was built with a different idea in mind, as it's all about the immersion in different, extremely well-themed lands that blend together nicely. Of course, it's still about Disney movies and characters, but here it's less noticeable. Before I go into detail, I have to clarify a few things. Tokyo DisneySea is the only Disney park that I've visited so far, as I didn't feel the need to visit Tokyo Disneyland. This is the case because Tokyo DisneySea is the only Disney park that I really wanted to visit. As I'm a full-blooded coaster enthusiast, I usually prioritize visiting parks that have outstanding roller coasters. This isn't the case with Disney parks, so I don't necessarily need to visit them. And don't get me wrong, I also enjoy dark rides, shows, and other non-coaster attractions, but if a park solely focuses on that without offering any appealing thrill rides, it's a turn-off for me. And as most Disney parks are very expensive, with single-day tickets hovering around the €100 mark, it just doesn't seem worth the money and effort. But Tokyo DisneySea is the exception for several reasons. The first one is theming. This park has always looked stunning, and it seemed much more immersive than the other Disney parks. Another reason is the pricing. Tokyo Disney Resort is a lot less expensive than American Disney parks or Disneyland Paris, which certainly made it more appealing as well. While DisneySea also lacks a major thrill ride, its ride lineup still seemed quite good, so I decided to give the park a shot. And that certainly was the right call, because Tokyo DisneySea is just brilliant. It all starts with the entry experience. If you don't have a car and don't want to walk, you have to take the Disney Resort monorail to get to the entrance. This makes the arrival experience quite special, and as the monorail travels along the waterfront, DisneySea feels very secluded. After passing through metal detection and the ticket gate, you enter the park's entrance plaza, which features a Universal Studios-like globe. In order to get into the actual park, you have to pass underneath a massive and really well-themed hotel structure. You then enter the park at the Mediterranean harbor, where you are presented with a stunning view of the park's iconic volcano. Before I talk about each of the park's lands, I quickly want to talk about the food and drinks. I was worried that the food and drink options would be overpriced, but to my surprise, most of them were reasonable. All of the smaller snacks that I had, which included popcorn, a popsicle, and some weird sausage gyoza, were less expensive than they would have been at most European parks. And with the exception of the sausage gyoza, all of the food options that I tried were high quality. I also tried one of the park's restaurants, and while that wasn't cheap, it also was extremely good, so it certainly was worth it, especially because of the location, although I'll come back to that later. But now let's talk about some of the park's lands. By my own definition, DisneySea has 9 different areas although some of these are so small that I hardly count. The entrance area is called Mediterranean Harbor, and as the name suggests, it has some similarities with PortAventura's entrance area, as both feature a big body of water, Mediterranean buildings and vineyards. Ride-wise, I'm pretty sure there only is the park's flying theater called Soaring Fantastic Flight. This is one of the main attractions that I skipped, because it had a consistently long line and the model isn't very unique anymore. Outside of the awesome views that you can get from pretty much everywhere in this area, the highlight have got to be the shows on the central lake. I only witnessed a little bit of the first one, and that was certainly geared towards kids, but I heard that the second show in the evening is stunning. As I didn't stay until it was dark, I won't be able to judge the nighttime experience, but I bet it has to be gorgeous. The Mediterranean harbor also features several big souvenir shops and some charming cafes, and even though it's the entrance area, there are several quiet spots to take a break around here. Another cool aspect is the bridge that passes over a part of the central lake. This lake is spread throughout the entire park, which adds a ton of charm to all of the areas. Integrated into Mediterranean Harbor is Venice, which is its own small area. This part of the park is one of my favorites, as it absolutely makes you feel like you are in Venice. All of the buildings, which partially are from one of the park's hotels, fit into this area super well, and the channels with the iconic Venetian gondolas seal the deal for me. Usually, guests can take a ride with these gondolas, but that sadly wasn't the case during my visit. Despite that, you could still get your picture taken in a gondola, which was a decent replacement. As there aren't any rides in Venice, there isn't too much else worth mentioning, but if you're looking for a quiet area to take a break, I recommend doing that here. Bordering Venice and Mediterranean Harbor is the American waterfront. This is my personal favorite area of Tokyo DisneySea because it doesn't even feel like it's in a theme park anymore. American waterfront consists of several roads, plazas, and impressive buildings, and all of it is super detailed and extremely immersive. This area represents America in the late 19th or early 20th century, specifically a larger city at either the east or west coast of the United States. One of the attractions here is the DisneySea Electric Railway, which is a transportation ride that travels between this area and Port Discovery. It looks a bit similar to a cable car from San Francisco, so it fits into this area really well. In the back of the area sits the massive Tower of Terror. There is an iteration of this ride in most Disney resorts, and these rides get a lot of praise. And while this version is considered to be one of the weaker iterations, I still wanted to see what all the fuss was about. The indoor part of the queue line was great, as it was very detailed and even featured a cool pre-show, and the ride system was interesting as well. But when the ride ended, I immediately wondered where the rest of the ride went. The 2 screens and the 2 drop sequences were alright, but I expected a lot more to come. They should have built something like Mystery Castle instead. But luckily, this ride was the only disappointment of the park. Next to Tower of Terror is the Toy Story area, which technically is part of American Waterfront. I count it as its own small area. This dead end really only features Toy Story Mania, a shooting duck ride that I skipped. I have nothing to say on this area, so let's move on. American Waterfront's signature element is undoubtedly the SS Columbia. This recreation of a 19th century steamship is crazy. You could spend hours on this ship alone, because there's a lot to see, and the views you can get here are amazing. There even are 2 whole restaurants here, of which I visited one. Not only was the staff here super nice, but the interior of the restaurant was really cool as well. The food here might have been the best theme park food I've ever had, and with this location this honestly is the perfect place for a break. This sums up the main part of American Waterfront, and if you're not convinced that this area is a masterpiece, then the last bit might do that. There is a secluded part of American waterfront that resembles a Californian coast town, and this single area has a ton of charm. I can't exactly say why this is the case, so you will have to see for yourself. American waterfront is just such a good area, and I could spend a whole day here. We've reached the end of the first part of my Tokyo DisneySea review. There is a lot more stuff to cover and I just don't want to squeeze it all into one long video. So thanks for watching and stay tuned for part 2.